The sun cast long shadows across the United Nations Plaza in New York as another seemingly ordinary day began. Inside his office, Secretary General Dae-ho Kim rubbed his tired eyes, sifting through the morning stack of reports. The coffee on his desk had grown cold, forgotten during his deep focus on the latest global economic forecasts. His assistant burst through the door without knocking, face pale and hands shaking. "Sir, you need to see this." She grabbed the remote and turned on the wall-mounted screen. Every news channel showed the same image. Massive ships appearing out of nowhere in Earth's orbit. Kim stood slowly, his years of diplomatic training keeping his expression neutral even as his heart raced. The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way, their hulls reflecting sunlight like liquid mercury. They moved with impossible grace for their size, each one larger than the largest cities on Earth. The emergency alarms began blaring throughout the UN building. Security teams rushed through the corridors, directing everyone to the General Assembly Hall. Kim straightened his tie and jacket, took a deep breath, and headed there himself. Whatever was coming, humanity would face it with dignity. In the Assembly Hall, representatives from every nation sat in tense silence. Military advisors whispered into phones and tablets, coordinating with their home countries. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and fear. A shimmer appeared in the center of the hall, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. It grew and twisted until it formed into a tall figure. The being that appeared would have been impressive if it wasn't so obviously trying to be impressive. Lord Haenul, as he would soon introduce himself, stood nearly 3 meters tall. His formal robes sparkled with embedded crystals, and multiple sets of eyes blinked in sequence around his elongated head. "People of Earth," he began in perfect English, his voice echoing dramatically through the hall. "I come as the representative of the Galactic Empire, rulers of 1,000,000 worlds, masters of time and space, wielders of powers beyond your comprehension. You stand in the presence of beings who have mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. Witness our might and prepare to join our glorious." A snicker interrupted his speech. Then another. Soon, scattered laughter spread through the hall like a wave. Representative Jaya Park from South Korea was the first to completely lose her composure. She doubled over in her seat, tears streaming down her face as she fought to catch her breath. Haenul's speech faltered. All his eyes blinked rapidly in confusion. This was not the reaction the Empire received from primitive worlds. Where was the awe, the fear, the immediate offers of submission? "I'm sorry," Park managed to say between fits of giggles, "but did you just use quantum tunneling to teleport in here? Actually use it for transportation." She wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. "We developed past that limitation years ago. The energy waste alone makes it impractical for anything but small-scale experiments." The laughter grew louder as other representatives caught on. The Chinese representative pulled up something on his tablet and showed it to his neighbors, causing fresh peals of laughter. "Their ships use ionic propulsion," he called out. "We switched to gravity manipulation drives last year." Haenul's skin shifted through several colors, finally settling on a deep purple that humans would later learn indicated extreme embarrassment. "Impossible," he sputtered. "Your world has barely achieved spaceflight. Our sensors show you've only reached your own moon." Secretary General Kim finally stepped forward, maintaining his diplomatic composure despite the humor of the situation. "Ambassador, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. While it's true we maintain certain public technologies at a specific level, Earth's actual technological capabilities are quite advanced. We simply saw no need to broadcast our progress to the galaxy at large." One of the military advisors in the back raised his hand. "Quick question. Those ships up there, are they using standard plasma shields or the crystalline matrix variety? Because we found both to be pretty vulnerable to our newer quantum disruption fields." Haenul's mouth opened and closed several times, but no sound came out. The Empire's intelligence on Earth was clearly wrong. Very wrong. These humans weren't primitive at all. They had simply been subtle about their advancement. And now, they were laughing at the Empire's supposedly superior technology. In the following hours, as initial diplomatic discussions began, Hay-Newell would learn many uncomfortable truths about Earth. Humans hadn't revealed their true technological level because they had extensive science fiction stories about the dangers of doing so. They had prepared for every possible first contact scenario, including this one. They had even made movies about exactly this type of situation, which several representatives were already quoting. By the end of that first day, videos of the Empire's dramatic entrance had gone viral across Earth's information networks, complete with amusing edits and commentary. Humanity's response to meeting an advanced alien empire wasn't fear or awe. It was to turn it into a meme. Lord Hay-Newell sent an urgent message to his superiors that evening. The report was brief. We may have made a terrible mistake. These humans are not what we thought they were. And they're still laughing at us. The first day of humanity's official contact with the Galactic Empire ended not with Earth joining their ranks, but with the Empire scrambling to understand how they had so completely misread this seemingly simple world. In his private quarters, Secretary General Kim finally allowed himself a small smile. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for today, humanity had shown that sometimes the best response to pompous authority was simply to laugh at it. The morning after first contact, Ambassador Hay-Newell arrived at the UN with what he believed would be an overwhelming display of imperial bureaucratic might. His assistants struggled under the weight of data crystals containing the imperial constitution and regulatory guidelines. The ambassador's multiple eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Surely these simple humans would be impressed by the Empire's sophisticated governmental structure. Defense Minister Sun Mei-Li sat at the conference table, her tablet ready and a cup of green tea steaming beside her. She had spent the night reviewing Earth's preliminary analysis of imperial technology and was ready for whatever came next. When Hay-Newell's assistants began projecting the documents into the air, she merely raised an eyebrow. These are the basic regulations all member worlds must follow, Hay-Newell announced proudly. Only 1,000 pages for the preliminary overview. The full documentation runs to roughly 1 million pages, but we'll get to those later. Lee took a sip of her tea and began scanning the floating text. Her eyes moved rapidly across the documents, her tablet's neural interface allowing her to process the information at enhanced speed. After exactly 3 minutes, she set down her cup and cleared her throat. "Ambassador, I have some concerns," she said quietly. The room fell silent. "Your Section 7, regarding planetary resource management, directly contradicts Section 243 about autonomous regional development. Furthermore, I've identified 17 major conflicts with basic constitutional law and 43 logical paradoxes in just the first 100 pages." Hay-Newell's skin shifted to a pale yellow, the color of confusion in his species. "Impossible. Our legal experts spent thousands of years perfecting these regulations." "That's part of the problem," Lee replied, standing to highlight specific sections in the floating text. "Your inheritance laws, for example, still reference property rights from an empire that, according to your own historical timeline, ceased to exist 3 million years ago. You've been adding new laws without removing outdated ones." The imperial assistants began frantically checking their own copies of the regulations. One of them fainted when they realized Minister Lee was correct. In the corner of the room, Lieutenant Tai Young was trying very hard to maintain his professional composure. As part of Earth's digital communications team, he couldn't help but see the absurd humor in the Empire's tangled bureaucracy. While the ambassadors argued, he quietly began working on his tablet. "And your tax collection system," Lee continued, "requires each transaction to be processed through 17 different departments, each in a different star system, before final approval. How does anything get done?" Before Hay-Newell could respond, laughter erupted from the human staff in the room. Tai Young had finished his first animation, a simple but hilarious video showing the Empire's tax collection process reimagined as a game of cosmic pinball. A payment bounced between different administrative offices like a ball, complete with sound effects and a constantly decreasing efficiency score. "This is outrageous," Haynul protested, but it was too late. The video was already spreading across Earth's networks. Within hours, thousands of remixes appeared. Someone set the Imperial regulations to a catchy dance tune. Another person created a drinking game based on finding contradictions in the Empire's laws. Minister Lee pulled up another section of the regulations. "Your process for requesting new office supplies requires approval from 3 different planetary governors, 2 spiritual advisors, and something called the Grand Council of Appropriate Desk Organization." By now, even some of Han Newell's own staff were struggling not to laugh. One of them had secretly downloaded Tae-young's animation and was showing it to their colleagues. "Perhaps," Lee suggested gently, "we could help you streamline some of these processes. Earth has quite a bit of experience in governmental efficiency reforms." Haynul's skin had shifted through so many colors of embarrassment that he was starting to look like a malfunctioning light display. "Our system has worked for millions of years," he insisted weakly. "Has it worked, or has everyone just been too afraid to point out its problems?" Lee asked, pulling up statistics showing the Empire's declining economic efficiency over the past 1,000 years. The meeting ended early when one of Haynul's assistants accidentally activated an ancient regulation requiring all criticisms of imperial bureaucracy to be submitted in triplicate to an office that had been destroyed in a supernova 3 centuries ago. That evening, as videos about imperial bureaucracy dominated Earth's entertainment channels, Minister Lee sat in her office reviewing more of the regulations. Her assistant brought in fresh tea and paused to watch one of Tae-young's new animations, this one showing the 18-step process required for an imperial citizen to request permission to make animations about imperial processes. "Do you think we're being too hard on them?" the assistant asked. Lee looked up from her tablet and smiled. "Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is point out the absurdity of a situation. The Empire has been trapped in its own rules for so long, they've forgotten how to question them. A little laughter might be exactly what they need." Somewhere in the vast imperial bureaucracy, clerks were already beginning to whisper about the humans' strange ideas about efficiency and logical consistency. Change was coming to the Empire, one viral video at a time. Imperial anthropologist Yoon-gai stepped off his research vessel with the confident air of someone who had studied thousands of developing civilizations. His data pad was ready to document the primitive customs of these humans, who had barely managed spaceflight. His first stop was a local institution of learning called a public library in New York City. The elderly librarian who greeted him seemed completely unfazed by his alien appearance. "Science fiction section," she asked before he could speak. "Down that aisle, take a left at fantasy. You can't miss it. That's where all the other alien researchers end up." Yoon-gai blinked his 3 eyes in confusion but followed her directions. He found himself staring at rows upon rows of books, digital displays, and interactive holograms. His translator worked overtime as he began scanning titles. War of the Worlds, Ender's Game, Independence Day Archives, complete history of human-alien conflict scenarios. For the next 12 hours, Yoon-gai remained rooted in place, his datapad filling with increasingly alarmed notes. These humans hadn't just imagined alien contact. They had spent centuries imagining every possible way it could go wrong, and then imagining solutions. A young student found him there, surrounded by books and muttering to himself. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "How?" Yoon-gai's voice trembled. "How did you know about the Rigelian mind control spores? We only developed those last century, and you have 6 different books describing countermeasures." The student shrugged. "Oh, that's just something from an old video game. Hey, you should check out our movies if you think the books are interesting." That's how Yoon-gai found himself in the library's media room, watching what humans called science fiction movies. His first report back to the Empire was sent at 3 a.m. Earth time, (GMT). These humans have fictional documentation of defeating exactly 27 different types of alien invasions. They have planned for biological warfare, technological superiority, mind control, time manipulation, and even interdimensional attacks. Most concerning, they make their children watch these scenarios as entertainment. The next day, Yoon-Gai visited something called a comic book store. His second report was even more panicked. UPDAT. They have illustrated manuals showing their youth how to resist alien occupation. They disguise these as superhero comics, but the tactical information is disturbingly accurate. Found one that perfectly describes how to disable our quantum shield generators, written 40 years before we invented them. His research led him to something humans called video games. After trying something called Axiom, he had to take a break to calm his nerves. His third report was just one line. They practice fighting us for fun. During his second week on Earth, Yoon-Gai discovered internet forums. He found thousands of detailed discussions about alien invasion scenarios, each with countless suggested countermeasures. Some were ridiculous, but others were frighteningly plausible. A teenage girl explained to him how she would defeat an alien mind control signal by using noise-canceling algorithms, the exact method that had cost the Empire 3 years of research to develop. When he asked how she knew this would work, she said she thought it up while bored in math class. Yoon-Gi's final report to the Empire was less academic and more of a desperate warning. These humans haven't been defending their planet. They've been preparing for us. Every piece of entertainment they create about alien contact is actually a thought experiment in defeating us. Their children learn about defeating alien invasions before they learn advanced mathematics. They have developed weapons specifically designed to counter technologies they hadn't even encountered yet, just because they thought it would be cool. Most worrying of all, they seem to enjoy thinking about this. They spend their free time imagining how to defeat beings like us. Even their small children play games about resisting alien occupation. They are not afraid of us. They have been waiting for us. Recommendation: reevaluate all invasion plans immediately. Also, I am taking 2 weeks of mental health leave after discovering something they call Independence Day. I need time to process their concept of uploading computer viruses to alien motherships. How do they know about that vulnerability in our systems? Why do they make their children do this? As Yoon-Gi wrote his report, a group of human children played nearby in the park. They were acting out their own alien invasion scenario, complete with imaginary force fields and clever plans to defeat the invaders. One of them had even made a surprisingly accurate model of an Imperial battle cruiser out of cardboard. The anthropologist watched them with a mixture of horror and fascination. These humans hadn't just prepared for alien contact. They had turned it into a form of entertainment. They had spent generations imagining every possible way to defeat beings like him. And they had done it all while eating snacks and enjoying themselves. In the library, his abandoned datapad displayed a final note. They aren't primitive at all. They've been playing war games against us for centuries. And they're still laughing about it. General Do-hyun stood before the massive holographic display aboard his flagship, his multiple arms crossed in growing frustration. Dozens of Earth's defense systems blinked across the screen, each operating independently yet somehow in perfect harmony. Nothing in his centuries of military experience had prepared him for this. Run the simulation again, he ordered his tactical team. There must be a central control point we're missing. The computers hummed as they processed another attack scenario. On the display, simulated Imperial forces struck Earth's major military installations simultaneously. Instead of crumbling, Earth's defenses adapted instantly. When one system went down, 3 others picked up the slack. It was like fighting a swarm of insects. Cut off one head, and 2 more appeared. Impossible, muttered Do-hyun's second-in-command. How do they coordinate without a central command structure? A junior analyst cleared her throat nervously. Sir, I think I found something relevant in their entertainment archives. Something called The Walking Dead. Do-hyun watched in bewilderment as the analyst played clips from various zombie apocalypse movies and shows. His confusion only grew as she explained the concept. Humans had spent decades imagining scenarios where their civilization collapsed, forcing survivors to create resilient, decentralized networks. They built their actual defense systems based on these entertainment scenarios. Do-hyun's skin flickered with disbelief. They prepared for us by watching stories about walking corpses. The analyst pulled up more data. Not just that, sir. Their entire infrastructure is designed to survive apocalyptic scenarios. Their power grids, communication networks, food distribution systems, everything can function independently if needed. Do-hyun began pacing, all four legs moving in agitation. His initial reconnaissance had suggested Earth would be an easy conquest. Now, each new discovery made him more uncomfortable. "Show me their orbital defenses," he commanded. The hologram shifted to display Earth's satellite network. What had appeared primitive at first glance now revealed its true complexity. Thousands of seemingly civilian satellites contained hidden defense capabilities. Solar power stations doubled as energy weapons. Weather monitoring systems concealed advanced scanning technology. They hide their military capabilities in plain sight, Do-hyun observed. Even their entertainment satellites can transform into defensive platforms. His tactical officer spoke up. "Sir, we've analyzed their internet infrastructure. They designed it specifically to be indestructible. Even if we knocked out 90% of their network, the remaining 10% would maintain global communications." "Why?" Do-hyun demanded. "Why build everything this way?" According to their media archives, "Sir, they did it because of something called doomsday preppers. Apparently, humans spend their free time preparing for every possible disaster scenario. They even have competitions about it." Do-hyun slumped into his command chair, all four hands massaging his temples. His report to Imperial High Command was going to sound insane. "Sir," the analyst continued, "you should see their civilian response protocols. Every human child knows multiple emergency plans. They practice them regularly in their education centers. They call them drills." The general watched footage of human children calmly following evacuation procedures, working together with practiced efficiency. They train their young to respond to disasters. "Yes, sir. And their civilian population is armed with something called survival skills. Many humans maintain supplies and equipment specifically for emergencies. They call it being prepared." Do-hyun began writing his report, knowing it would likely end his career. But the Empire needed to know the truth. Earth's defense strategy is unlike anything we've encountered. They have no central weakness to exploit. Their entire civilization is designed to survive catastrophic attacks. Each component of their society can function independently while still working in concert with the whole. Most disturbing of all, they developed this system not out of fear, but out of entertainment. They imagined countless scenarios of their civilization's destruction, then built real defenses based on their imaginations. They turned apocalyptic preparation into a hobby. Their children play games about surviving disasters. Their adults stockpile supplies for fun. They hide military capabilities inside civilian infrastructure because their fiction taught them to be paranoid. I cannot recommend any effective method of conquest. How do you defeat an enemy that spent generations entertaining themselves by imagining every way they might be defeated? The humans have turned their entire planet into a self-repairing, self-defending organism. And they did it because they watched movies about zombies. I don't understand their thought process, but I recognize the result. Earth is effectively unconquerable through conventional means. Personal addendum. I am formally requesting reassignment to a less disturbing sector of space. These humans frighten me. As Do-hyun finished his report, alerts flashed across his tactical display. Earth's defense systems were running another practice scenario, adapting and improving themselves without human input. The general watched in reluctant admiration as the planet's decentralized defenses danced through their deadly choreography. Somewhere on Earth, a child was probably watching a zombie movie, imagining new ways to survive the apocalypse. And somehow, those imaginings would become part of humanity's real defense strategy. Do-hyun didn't understand it, but he knew one thing for certain. He never wanted to face these humans in actual combat. Minna had never questioned the Empire's control of information until she accidentally connected to something called Earth's Internet while doing her homework. What started as simple curiosity about the newly discovered species turned into a rebellion that would change the galaxy forever. She sat in her bedroom, surrounded by floating holoscreens displaying Earth's social media feeds. Her tentacles moved quickly across the interface as she absorbed everything she could about human culture. The more she learned, the more her eyes widened in amazement. They let anyone share their thoughts, she whispered to herself, without getting approval from the Ministry of Appropriate Communication. The concept of free speech was foreign to her. In the Empire, every message had to be reviewed by at least 3 different bureaucratic departments before being approved for public viewing. But here were humans, billions of them, freely sharing their ideas, art, music, and opinions. Minna discovered something called memes and spent hours trying to understand their significance. When she finally got the joke in one about cats demanding food, she laughed so hard her mother came to check on her. "What are you watching?" her mother asked, concerned about the strange sounds coming from the human videos. "It's called K-pop," Minna explained, showing her mother a dance video. Humans make music and dance for fun, not just for imperial celebrations. And look, they share it with everyone. Her mother should have reported this unauthorized access to alien culture. Instead, she found herself swaying to the catchy rhythm. "Show me more," she whispered. Minna started small, sharing Earth content with her closest friends through their school's communication network. They were amazed by human concepts like weekends and vacation time. The Empire expected constant productivity. The idea of designated rest periods was revolutionary. One of her friends, Taiho, became obsessed with human fashion. He started wearing what he called jeans to school, modified for his species' unique physiology. The teachers were horrified, but other students thought it looked cool. Soon, the school hallways filled with aliens wearing Earth-inspired clothing. But it wasn't just the superficial aspects of human culture that spread. Minna found herself drawn to human ideas about governance and society. Words like democracy, voting, and rights entered her vocabulary. She learned about human history, about revolutions and reforms. Using techniques she learned from human social media, Minna created anonymous accounts to share information across the Empire's networks. She called her movement Earthwave and used human meme formats to spread serious ideas in entertaining ways. The Empire's censors couldn't keep up. Every time they shut down one of Minna's channels, 3 more appeared. Young Imperial citizens began questioning things they had always taken for granted. "Why do we need permission to choose our own careers?" asked one viral post. "Humans let their children pick their own life partners," declared another. The movement grew faster than anyone expected. Alien teenagers started organizing democratic study groups, disguised as imperial history clubs. They used Earth slang to confuse the authorities and shared banned information through complex networks inspired by human social media. Minna's room became the unofficial headquarters of the Earthwave movement. She spent her nights translating human concepts into terms her fellow imperial citizens could understand. Her followers grew from hundreds to millions. The Empire's response was predictable. They tried to shut down all access to Earth's networks, but they had underestimated how deeply human ideas had already penetrated their society. Imperial citizens had gotten their first taste of freedom, and they wanted more. Groups of young aliens began staging what they called freedom festivals, gatherings that looked like traditional imperial celebrations, but were actually protests inspired by human activism. They sang Earth songs with modified lyrics about liberty and democracy. Minna's parents discovered her role in the movement when imperial authorities finally traced the source of the earthwave. But instead of turning her in, her father surprised her by asking, "Can you show me how to make one of those mean things? I have some thoughts about the imperial tax system." The movement reached a turning point when Minna discovered human young adult literature about teenagers standing up to oppressive governments. She translated and shared these stories across the galaxy. Young imperial citizens saw themselves in these human characters fighting for change. In her personal diary, Minna wrote, "Humans don't just imagine freedom, they expect it. They build their entire society around the idea that people should have choices. The Empire taught us that control brings stability, but Earth shows us that freedom brings progress." The Empire's carefully maintained order was crumbling, transformed by nothing more dangerous than ideas shared through social media. Alien parents watched in mixture of horror and secret pride as their children demanded rights they had never imagined possible. As the movement grew beyond her control, Minna received a message from Earth's UN representatives. "We see what you're doing. Keep going. Freedom finds a way." She smiled as she looked at her latest creation, a meme showing the imperial bureaucracy as a complicated maze with democracy as the simple path through it. It would be shared millions of times across the galaxy, each share carrying with it a seed of change. The Empire had expected to change Earth when they made contact. Instead, Earth was changing the Empire, one viral post at a time. And at the center of it all was a young alien girl who had simply wanted to understand why humans seemed to laugh so much at cats asking for cheeseburgers. Emperor Sangwon sat on his crystalline throne, watching holographic reports from across his vast empire with growing dismay. For 300 years, he had maintained perfect order across 12,000 worlds. Now, because of one insignificant planet called Earth, everything was falling apart. "Your Imperial Majesty," his chief advisor stammered, "the situation has grown worse. The protesters are now using something called flash mobs to organize. They appear suddenly in public spaces, perform synchronized dances about democracy, and disappear before our forces can respond." The Emperor's scales darkened with rage. "How many have we arrested?" "That's the problem, sire. We can't arrest them all. There are too many. And every time we do make arrests, they post these things called vlogs about it. The videos spread faster than we can contain them." A new alert flashed across the throne room's main screen. The Emperor's heart nearly stopped when he saw the source, his own daughter's social media channel. Princess Jin'e, heir to 12,000 worlds, appeared on screen wearing what humans called casual clothing instead of her formal royal attire. "Hey everyone," she waved at the camera. "Today we're going to talk about something called checks and balances. Don't forget to like and subscribe." The Emperor's tail lashed in frustration. "Shut it down. Shut down all these human-style communication channels." "We've tried, sire," another advisor reported, "but they're using something called VPNs to bypass our controls. The humans taught them how to create decentralized networks. We can't stop them all." On screen after screen, reports poured in of civil disobedience across the Empire. On Proxima Italy, citizens were holding town halls to discuss local governance. The crystal miners of Rigel VII had formed something called a labor union. Students at the Imperial Academy were demanding student council elections. "Perhaps," suggested his oldest advisor carefully, "we should consider some modest reforms." "Reforms." The Emperor's voice echoed through the chamber. "The Empire has stood unchanged for 10,000 years. We don't need reforms." At that moment, Princess Jin'e herself burst into the throne room, holding her communication device in front of her. "Hi TikTok. I'm here with my dad, the Emperor, to talk about why we need to update our constitutional monarchy for the modern age." The Emperor slumped in his throne. "Jin'e, please. Not now." "Dad, your last approval rating was 12%. Even the Grand High Council of Ancient Traditions is posting memes about how outdated our system is. We need to change with the times. Approval ratings. The Emperor's crest flared in confusion. Since when do we have approval ratings? Since Earth showed us how to make online polls. Jin A explained, still recording. And speaking of polls, my followers want to know when we're going to hold our first democratic elections for the Imperial Senate. Reports continued flooding in. The Centaurian system had declared itself a democratic autonomous zone. The robots of Epsilon Eridani were demanding digital rights. Someone had turned the Empire's complicated tax code into a viral music video. And now everyone was dancing to it while protesting about fiscal reform. The Emperor watched helplessly as his daughter's latest video gained millions of views in minutes. The comments section filled with support from across the galaxy. Even the Imperial Guard was sharing it. The humans, he muttered, they planned this somehow. They knew their ideas would spread like a virus through our empire. Actually, Dad, Jin A said, finally lowering her device, I don't think they planned anything. They just showed us that there are other ways to live. Better ways. Ways where people have voices and choices. The throne room's alerts suddenly shifted to emergency status. The Imperial Palace was surrounded by peaceful protesters, all performing something called the Democracy Dance Challenge that Jin A had started last week. Your Majesty, his chief advisor said gently, I believe we have two choices. We can either embrace change and guide it, or we can resist and watch the empire crumble completely. The Emperor looked at his daughter, who had grown up in an age of instant galactic communication and exposure to new ideas. She represented the future, whether he liked it or not. Fine, he sighed. Jin A, what do your followers suggest we do first? His daughter's face lit up. She immediately started recording again. Breaking news, everyone. The Emperor has agreed to discuss reforms. Drop a comment below with your top 3 suggestions for democratizing the empire. Within seconds, millions of responses poured in from across the galaxy. The Empire's citizens had clearly been thinking about this for a while. The Emperor spent the next several hours watching in amazement as his daughter explained concepts like representative democracy and constitutional rights to her massive audience. She had clearly learned more about governance from Earth's social media than from all her royal tutors combined. That evening, as he prepared the first imperial decree acknowledging the need for reform, the Emperor received an unexpected message from Earth's United Nations. It contained only 3 words, "Welcome to democracy." He couldn't help but notice it had been sent as a meme. The Grand Assembly Hall of the newly formed United Systems Alliance buzzed with excitement. Representatives from 12,000 worlds gathered to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. The first democratically elected galactic president taking office. The hall itself reflected the changes of the past year. Gone were the imposing imperial symbols, replaced by the simple logo of the Alliance, a spiral galaxy with Earth highlighted as a tiny but significant point of light. Hanul stood before the assembled delegates, his multiple eyes taking in the scene with wonderment. Just 1 Earth year ago, he had arrived on that small blue planet as an imperial ambassador, certain of his civilization's superiority. Now, here he was, about to deliver his inauguration speech as the first elected president of a democratic galactic alliance. Secretary General Kim sat in the front row, maintaining his characteristic calm smile. Beside him, Princess Jinna, now simply Citizen Jinna, was live-streaming the event to trillions of viewers across the galaxy. My fellow citizens of the stars, Hanul began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. 1 year ago, I arrived on Earth with a 1,000-page document of imperial regulations. I expected to teach them how to join our civilization. Instead, they taught us how to laugh at ourselves, and in doing so, showed us a better way to live. The audience chuckled, remembering the viral videos that had marked the beginning of the revolution. Someone had even turned Hanul's first contact speech into a popular dance remix. We thought we were advanced because we could travel between stars, he continued. But Earth showed us that true advancement isn't about technology. It's about the freedom to question, to create, to choose our own paths. In the audience, former imperial anthropologist Junge nodded vigorously. He had just published a best-selling book titled How Earth's Science Fiction Predicted Everything We Did Wrong. Our transformation wasn't always easy, Hay Newell acknowledged. Change never is. But the humans showed us something remarkable, that serious change can be accompanied by joy, by creativity, by laughter. The screens around the hall displayed images from the past year, peaceful protests that looked like dance parties, reform committees that started with meme-sharing sessions, serious political debates conducted partly through clever internet videos. We didn't lose our empire, Hay Newell declared. We gained something far greater, our freedom. And we gained 6 billion new teachers who showed us that governing doesn't have to mean controlling. In the back of the hall, General Du Hyun watched with his tactical team. They had all been reformed into the Alliance Defense Force, using Earth's decentralized defense systems as a model. Still can't believe they beat us with memes, he muttered, but he was smiling. The humans never sought to rule us, Hay Newell continued. They simply shared their ideas and let those ideas do what ideas naturally do: grow, spread, and transform. Earth didn't join the empire because Earth understood something we have forgotten: that true civilization is built on freedom, not force. Secretary General Kim's smile widened slightly. Earth's strategy had been elegantly simple: just let the galaxy see how humans lived, and let nature take its course. As your first elected president, Hay Newell said, approaching the end of his speech, I promise to uphold the principles we learned from Earth: freedom of expression, democratic representation, and the right to question authority. Even the right to make fun of your president's speeches on social media. This drew a laugh from the audience. Several delegates were already turning his words into memes. We came to teach them, Hay Newell concluded, his voice filled with humble amusement. Instead, they taught us the power of laughter in the face of authority. They taught us that the strongest societies are built not on obedience, but on freedom. Earth didn't join the empire. The empire joined Earth. As applause filled the hall, Kim turned to Jin-A and asked, was it worth giving up your royal title? She grinned, still recording. Are you kidding? I have 10 million followers now. That's way better than being a princess. The ceremony ended with something that would have been unthinkable a year ago: a party. Delegates from across the galaxy danced to Earth music, shared memes, and celebrated their new freedom. Even former Emperor Sangwon was there, wearing what he called his casual crown, and learning to do something called the democracy dance. As the celebrations continued, Hay Newell found a moment to speak privately with Secretary General Kim. Did you know? He asked. When we first arrived, did you know this would happen? Kim's enigmatic smile remained unchanged. We didn't plan any of this, he replied. We just showed you who we are. You did the rest yourselves. Somewhere in the party, someone started playing the viral remix of Hay Newell's first contact speech. The new president of the United Systems Alliance laughed and joined the dance floor, his formal robes swaying to the beat of change. The galaxy had been transformed not by war, not by force, but by the simple power of human ideas and the irresistible force of laughter. And that was just the beginning.